Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Bob Scarperi. Bob has been a leader in professional services, SaaS, financial services, AdTech, MarTech, and management consulting for 32 years. His company, Revenue Vision Partners, is the industry's leading data-driven revenue growth consulting firm. So without further delay, sit back, plug your earphones in, and let's jump right into this conversation with Bob. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Now, we always like to give our listeners an opportunity to hear from the guest in their own words a little bit about your journey. And it has been quite a long journey. 32 years is a good amount of time to have under your belt in all of these wonderful areas. So could you share with our listeners just a little bit about how you got from where you were to where you are today?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about myself. Just kidding. So right around the time I was finishing college, I had a really strong pull to get into sales. I was extremely lucky to have had a best friend's father was the top sales guy at Automatic Data Processing, ADP, which is sort of known to be one of the best and strongest sales-driven cultures in the Fortune 100. And, right from the very beginning, all of their structure, rigor, process, intensity really meshed with my personality and my sort of competitive nature. And so I was lucky enough to have some early success. I'm very, very grateful for how much faith they had in me from an early age, giving me opportunities to run sales teams and move and get to experience new geographies and have, really great experiences in such a phenomenally well-run company. And then, without going into too much detail, of course, my journey took me to, through a number of different industries, early days of ad tech. I worked for a long time as an equity sales and trading person at AllianceBernstein. Was lucky enough also to have some leadership positions, run sales teams internationally. And then toward, the last 10 years of my career, I had 3 chief revenue officer roles in high growth technology companies where I really started to embrace being a leader who prided myself on installing a systematic data-driven approach. And toward the end of, that decade, I decided I really wanted to do that as a consultant for a portfolio of companies so that I could be really working through various kind of company challenges in different industries with private equity firms as our partner. So that's what brought me to where I am now.
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, Bob, you wrote a book called Data and Diagnosis Driven Selling with 3 other gentlemen, Mark Petruzzi, Ray Pike, and Paul Melchiori. Am I pronouncing Paul's last name correct?
That's right. You crushed it.
Oh, awesome. Great. So could you take a minute to kind of just go through maybe 3 overarching themes that the book focuses on? And just how do you believe this can really help an organization to deliver a great customer experience? I'd love for you to maybe segment it for us because, selling covers so many different areas. I mean, you have if you're selling to a business versus if you're selling to a customer, an individual. So maybe you could take one of those areas and kind of just break it down for us, and just give examples of how, what you wrote about in the book can really help teams that are in sales, because sales is critical. It's a lifeline of any business. But how can the sales team really drive a quality customer experience that can drive to a high customer retention rate? Because at the end of the day, that's really what all businesses are aiming for, that they're going to be able to keep their customers for life.
Yeah. So regarding, who it's written for, I mean, it would really be for anyone selling to or trying to persuade a group of decision makers, right? So usually an organization where a number of people contribute to a decision. That is primarily in B2B sales, right? But if you find yourself in a position where you are trying to convince a town council to vote your way on a specific issue that's been a problem for the community, or anything else where there are a group of people who need to kind of come together to make a decision, our book will help you. And the way that it helps you is it lays out an approach that is not only proven by some of the most successful people in B2B sales, but it's also modern, utilizing the most high quality available B2B data. And we also talk about systems support and AI as a tool that can help the modern salesperson navigate this very complex selling environment with multiple decisions in a tough time in the market. The macro environment is currently as complex as it's ever been, and being successful in sales at the moment is also as challenging and complex as it's ever been. Does that answer your question? Is that a good starting point?
Yes, it is. It's a very good starting point. So I kind of wanted you also to maybe just go into, I would say, as I said, three overarching themes that the book focuses on. So you mentioned
Yeah.
AI, and
Yes.
it's a very hot topic, right? I think across the world, really, since it was introduced, especially since it's so accessible to everyone currently. But what does that really mean when you are selling to someone? Because at the end of the day, you're still dealing with human beings. So, what is the data really going to tell you that, or how is it going to help you to navigate that conversation? Because there has to be some human interaction, right? So, I kind of want you to walk us through that process.
Yes. So the book talks about two different types of AI. And it's really exciting because I don't think there is a sales book currently that, again, not only combines time proven elements with AI and data approaches, but the two types of AI are generative AI. Those would be systems like ChatGPT, who can help you create content in order to be compelling in a sales process,
Mm-hmm.
and predictive AI. Technologies like, and I'll use an example, Clary, which is a tool that helps sales teams understand which of their open sales opportunities have the highest probability of closing based on a myriad of factors. So we do get into really solid detail, and we also have contributors in the book who are experts in various topics and tell stories about how they've used these tools successfully.
All right. So that's excellent. Very good explanation on the generative and predictive AI. Because I do believe that, we throw the word around so much in different industries, especially in the customer experience industry. Many people believe that artificial intelligence is going to replace human beings and we're all going to be obsolete and not worth any value anymore. But I just, I'm not there yet. And I live in Kingston, Jamaica, where, we use technology here a lot, but we are not going to get to that point anytime soon, definitely not in my lifetime, where you're not going to need people, because we are still a society that is heavily dependent on people interaction. I mean, for example, in our banks here, and I compare it to the United States all the time, the banks are still full. 50, 40 people standing in the banks. And I travel to the US quite often, and I go to different financial institutions, and they're empty. There's nobody physically standing in there. There are no lines lined up outside or people lined up inside. So, just in terms of the culture and the behavior of people, I just don't believe that we're going to eliminate the people component in customer experience, because people still like to deal with people, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny because I do feel like, and the way that we lay it out in the book, AI can put you in a position to have more and better live human interactions with the right audience if used properly.
Agreed.
It doesn't replace humans. It sets humans up to be the best version of themselves and optimize their approach every day.
I love it. So it's really supposed to help us to interact better, to get to decisions faster, to understand people's behaviors quicker, to find solutions that are more need based. Because a lot of times salespeople sell you stuff. They're driven by the quotas that they need to meet. They're driven by the pressures that their organizations put on them. But when you match value to, the experience that the person is having, and are they really getting the right solution, a lot of times down the road, when there is a, like, let's say, a survey that's done or some form of focus group, especially if they're losing customers over a period of time, you realize that it wasn't even the right solution that was given to the client, or it wasn't being managed the proper way. And I guess if they had the right data from day one, and it was being provided in the right way, they wouldn't have lost the customer in the first place.
Yes, I couldn't agree more.
All right.
We have a third theme. Can I just make sure we touch the third theme?
Sure.
Okay, the third theme of the book is utilizing simple data science in order to ensure that your sales approach is driven by your ideal customer profile. And I'll just briefly state that as a sales leader, I had gotten frustrated by knowing that focusing on the ideal customer profile was the right thing, and then defining that and making that approach data-driven was impossible. It was a very distant and vague concept, but I believe that we own the very best definition now of what the ideal customer profile is, and how to take that definition and identify, score, and rank specific prospects and clients that are the best match to that ideal customer profile, and create an entire commercial approach with that as the foundation.
All right. And what is the definition that you have identified in the book as your ideal customer profile?
Yeah, so that it's basically utilizing firmographic traits to know what industry, what subsector, what size of the company, how much it's growing, what web scraping tells you about a company. When you can build a model that identifies those common traits in your best customers and utilize expert panels to ensure that the model has picked up on the right signals, that is the best way to create an ideal customer profile and, again, score and rank accounts. It's quite technical, but it's all in the book.
Yes, agreed. And our listeners would have tapped into this episode and they'd like to put their hands on your book. Where can they find it?
It's available in all the major outlets, but I will tell you, I'm a huge fan of Amazon, and the book is readily available on Amazon in soft cover, hardcover, and we'll have an audio version available within 3 weeks of today.
Oh, okay. That was actually going to be my next question. Do you have it available on Audible?
And you better get used to this voice because it's 80% of the narration is done by me.
That is awesome. And I love your voice. So yes, I'm a big auditor
Oh, thank
learner.
you. That's the best compliment I've had all day. The only
You're
compliment.
you're welcome. You're welcome, Bob. All right, Bob. Now, I'd like for you to share with us what's the one online tool, resource, website, or application that you absolutely can't live without in your business?
Zoom Info.
Okay.
Zoom Info provides the backbone to a lot of the data work that we do at Revenue Vision Partners. And when we were in the marketplace to procure data assets, we did a thorough evaluation. We were convinced at the time, and 4+ years later, I continue to be convinced that Zoom Info has the best B2B data available in the market.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing. Can you also share with us maybe one or two books that you have read? It could be a book that you read a very long time ago, or even one that you've read recently, but it has had a great impact on your development and even your continued growth.
Yeah, so I would say that far and away, Strategic Selling by Miller Hyman is the number one book that has contributed to the way that I have approached sales since the early 90s. I feel it lays out the most logical and powerful and consistent approach or methodology for B2B sales. What we tried to do with the new book is take methodologies like strategic selling, spin selling, the challenger sale, and modernize the approach again with data and diagnosis and AI and build upon those methodologies.
Okay, so we'll have the link to that book in the show notes of this episode. Now,
Terrific.
Bob, could you also share with our listeners what's the one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? Either something you're working on to develop yourself or your people.
In our firm right now, we're doing one of these ideal customer profile-based data projects for a very large, diversified industrial company who services about a dozen different end markets. They're a multi-billion-dollar organization. We've run a pilot in one of their key divisions, and it's been a phenomenally successful data model. And I am convinced that their hundreds of salespeople are going to utilize their time better. They're going to sell bigger and better fit accounts. They're going to be more gratified in their jobs. The company is going to gain market share in a more consistent and repeatable way. And it's thrilling to do that because this was the promise that we built our company on. And this couldn't be a better group of humans to work with who I just want to see them succeed for all the right reasons. So I am so excited about this journey that we're just far enough along where there's proof that it's working, and there's so much ahead of us in terms of our ability to empower them to succeed.
All right. I'm excited too, just hearing all of the great opportunities that lie ahead.
And my tennis game, I mean, I feel like, my backhand is really ready for summer.
All right. Do you play competitively or do you just play for fun?
I play intermediate competitively. Yeah.
That's good.
So I can be pretty terrible and then have a couple of great shots and feel really good about myself. But it's a blast.
All right. Thank you for sharing. Now, our listeners would have tapped into this episode and they're quite intrigued with your book, your organization, all the great things that you're doing, and they would like to connect with you online. Where can they find you online?
LinkedIn, baby. LinkedIn and Instagram are probably the two places that I've had the biggest presence online. So in LinkedIn, I am just Bob Scarperi, and it's Scarperi. And you've found the right one when you see co-author of Data and Diagnosis Driven Selling, as well as co-founder of Revenue Vision Partners. And then on Instagram, Bobby Scarp, BOBBYSCARP.
All right, perfect. So we will have the links to those social media profiles in our show notes. Now, Bob, before we wrap up, we always like to give our guests an opportunity to share. I'm not sure if you have one of these, but a quote that you would tend to revert to if for any reason you are faced with some form of adversity or challenge, but that quote will help to get you refocused, get you back on track, and just help you to complete, for if for any reason you got derailed or you got off track.
Well, it's quite a long one, so I'm not going to quote the whole thing, but it's unless you want me to take up the rest of our time. But it is the Man in the Arena quote by Teddy Roosevelt. And, starting a business in one's middle age with lots of financial obligations, including 3 kids, 2 stepkids, et cetera, has been a really bold decision and quite terrifying at times. And every time I wonder if I've done the right thing, I ground myself in that amazing speech and always feel like I come back to believing that I was born to do something bold and that living through terrifying entrepreneurial moments are part of that. And the victories that one is lucky enough to experience when they make that brave and bold decision are, that much sweeter than any other career related victories in my life. I mean, of course, my highest highs have to do with my kids, but that whole man in the arena concept keeps me going every day.
All right. So we will have that full quote in the show notes of our episode, the Teddy Roosevelt quote, along
Great.
with, what you shared just now as it relates to kind of getting you back refocused on why you do what you do.
And if you saw the Tom Brady roast on Netflix, Matt Damon does a great job of narrating the entire thing, which I got
Oh,
a great kick out of.
oh, that's cool. Okay. Good tip. Thank you for sharing. All right, Bob, thank you so much for jumping on our podcast today and sharing all of these great insights as it relates to diagnostic selling and data driven selling, as well as artificial intelligence and the ICP. It's all great information. I've started consuming a part of the content of the book, but I just believe I'd get so much more from the Audible. So I'm actually going to wait until it's released in the next 3 weeks to continue. I just believe I'd get so much more listening to it rather than, reading it. But I would recommend for anyone that is a listener to our podcast to tap into this awesome resource that Bob and his team have so graciously given to us in the world. It's a great resource. And I believe that if we continue to try to find ways to add value to people's lives, create those opportunities that you're really providing the solutions that your customers want, that will allow them to be your customer for life through the techniques that you use to ensure that you are selling the right way, making the decisions the right way, your customer experience will take care of itself. So thank you so much.
Well, it's my pleasure. My business partner and my co-authors and I are all big fans of your podcast. I
Oh,
love the
really?
format.
Thank you.
I'm really thrilled to be a guest, and I've really enjoyed uh, both the sort of fun and light approach you take, as well as your thoughtful questions. So thanks so much for having me.
You're most welcome, Bob. I just want to remind our listeners that you can follow us on X at Navigating CX and feel free to join our private Facebook group, Navigating the Customer Experience Community. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant. We also have a new book available on Amazon, The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience. It's available in ebook and paperback. So if you want to increase revenue in your organization, build a stronger service culture, and create employees or develop employees who are really mastering service delivery in your business, you need to grab a copy of this book. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.